I'm going to answer the 10 most asked questions on private equity and buying a business. And look, this is completely fair to have this many questions about such a secret industry, because during my 10 years of working in private equity, the one thing that I've learned is that this industry loves to gatekeep. So I'm going to flip this thing upside down, and together we are going to look through the thousands of different questions that I've received in DMs, emails, and comments on what it is truly like of buying a business and working in private equity. So my goal is to flip that completely on its head and add a little bit more transparency into this industry. And how are we going to do that? Well, we are going to dive deep into 3 different segments of questions that I've received. The first segment being working and getting a job in private equity. I'm revealing it all. Second is going to be actually buying a business and picking the right company to invest in. And then 3, we are going to touch on what is my top picks of best businesses to buy this year. So make sure you guys stay towards the end of this video, because I give you guys a fire industry that not a lot of folks are spending enough time in, and there's some really good investments. All right, so I promised you guys that I was going to ask some questions, and all I'm doing is yapping. So let's dive into the first question and let's rock. Question number 1, did you actually work in private equity? Well, yes. Roll the clip. So from this clip, you can see this is baby Kenny Finance. This is from like almost 10 years ago, but this was one of my first jobs working at Blackstone, which is one of the largest private equity firms in the entire world. And as you can see, they put me in some of their commercials roaming down the halls. So I wasn't a paid actor, I was actually an investor, but I was on their private equity team looking and finding businesses to acquire, grow, and exit. Plain and simple. And I did that for a handful of years before moving over to KKR, which is one of our direct competitors. And KKR was actually the very first private equity firm to exist. Kind of cool, right? And they have the best recipe, and I think one of the best private equity firms in the world. And then recently I left and founded Dreamline Holdings, where we acquire low middle market assets all across the world. So if you want to stalk me, check me out on LinkedIn. That's, you have permission to stalk. All right, moving on. How do I get a job in private equity? Good question. So if you wanted to break into private equity, let me tell you one thing first and foremost. Well, private equity is one of the hardest jobs to get in the entire world, let alone Blackstone. And if you look at Blackstone's acceptance rate, meaning the folks that apply to jobs that actually convert and actually land the job and start working there, they have a harder acceptance rate than Stanford, Harvard, Wharton combined, right? To land a job at Blackstone in private equity, there is a 0.3% acceptance rate. Like, look at this. Like, that's crazy. Why? Because there are very, very, very few seats. It is a very specialized skill set. It is quite demanding, but the perk is, like, once you get the job, like, you're paid a buku amount of money and you learn a lot and you have the greatest skill set in the entire world, in my opinion. And I love this stuff. It feels like a video game to me. But I just want to set expectations that, like, don't think you can watch this video, then apply to Blackstone and get a job. Like, I don't want to promise that. But if you're set on getting a job in private equity, there's 2 core ways. First is the traditional path. And in this traditional path, this is going to a good school, studying business or finance or economics or math, and then landing a job into investment banking, doing that for about 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and then transitioning over during on-site recruiting into private equity associate classes. That's like a proven standard path that like 80-90% plus of folks do. But if you are non-traditional, meaning you're not at a target school, meaning that you don't come from a wealthy business family or business background, and you're trying to break in from the bottom up, like that's what I had to do. You gotta be scrappy. And my best advice is network your butt off, because my thesis is that no one is unreachable. So if you have an email, and if you have LinkedIn, if you got Instagram DMs, hit up anyone that works in that space and say, hey, I'm passionate about investing. I wanna break into private equity. Is it okay if I intern for you for free just to add value to source businesses to help with value creation, just to get the experience? And then you're able to stack XP and add stuff onto your resume and then apply to jobs. So while other folks were schmoozing at Harvard and trying to get a job at Goldman Sachs, you were out there on the streets hustling, all right? You were doing externships and internships. You were shadowing investors. You were doing real deals, and you were stacking XP onto your resume to showcase that you have the potential to be a great allocator of capital. And then outside of that, read as many investing books as possible so that you can think, breathe, and see like a private equity investor. Now, I can spend hours on this, and we got a bunch of other questions we got to dive into, but that's just level set what it takes to break into private equity. Number 3, will AI replace private equity investors? 50-50. All right, I think there's a world and a class of investors that work in private equity that are very passive and reactive, meaning that they rely strictly on business listings and email and Excel to drive their investment decisions. They don't have a personal touch. They don't have the swagger. They don't have the grit and the hustle to go find deals, grow deals, build relationships. I think AI is going to replace those folks in about 2 to 3 years, right? Like, check out this clip from Claude that showcases the power of AI in the world of financial services and investment banking jobs and private equity jobs. Like you can do almost 50, 75% of what a first-year analyst would have to do in private equity, all using AI. Like at Dreamland Holdings, most of the admin grunt analyst work is actually ran by some of my AI agent. Now, of course, I'm the face and like the cute, funny, goofy guy that goes out and brings in deals, but like a lot of work has now been transitioned over to technology and AI. But that other half is, I think there are a rare select group of folks that have such a unique ability to connect with people, to connect the dots on themes and data points, as well as draw really compelling investment theses in areas that folks might not be spending time in, right? Those are like the rare, really good investors. And if you're talented enough to have that skill set to build lifelong relationships with bankers, business owners, lenders, and other folks in this asset management ecosystem, I think that will serve you well, right? Like AI isn't going to hop on a plane and go visit a business owner and visit their facilities. AI is not going to go to an industry conference and speak to 500 different businesses at a distribution and transmission conference for utility services, right? Like things like that are things that AI can't really do. So instead of trying to master the skill set of how to craft the perfect LBO, how about you master the skill set around how to build compelling relationships with business owners, how to actually drive value for teams, how to manage leaders, things like that. Like those are the things that I don't think AI will be able to touch in the next like 15, 20 years. That's my point of view. But moving on. So now we're in the second tier of the theme, and this theme is actually on investing and buying businesses. And this question number 4 is, how do you find businesses to buy? Really great question. I think this is probably one of the most asked questions because it's focused on sourcing. And when it comes to how to actually find businesses to buy, I think there's 3 core ways you can go find businesses. Number 1 is you can rely on business listings. You can go to websites like BizBuySell or Flippa, and they have hundreds and thousands of businesses that are listed that folks can go inquire to potentially acquire. It's literally like Amazon and online shopping to where you can look through listings, find the businesses, see their cash flow, and see if it is a good or bad fit. The second point is actually connecting with bankers. These are the middle folks that represent sellers that are looking to sell their company. They're kind of like real estate agents, but instead of homes, they represent businesses. And then the third piece is direct outreach, meaning that you use your phone, this thing, you use your email, you use your legs and your voice to go hunt down business owners and convince them to sell them your business or their business directly. And I think that's the holy trifecta approach of sourcing businesses. Looking at business listings every single day, connecting with bankers and going and get drinks and coffee and lunch with those cats, and then actually going out and speaking directly to business owners, flying to their offices, going to conferences, all types of things just to be top of mind when they're ready to sell. And look, don't expect the stuff to actually convert into a real sale or a process in like 2 weeks. It takes months to potentially years to build a relationship with all these different stakeholders to actually land a deal. All right, that one was fun, but I think this next one might be even cooler. Number 5, what do you look for in a business to buy? Nice. Okay, so this question is asking like my checklist and criteria before I buy a business. What am I actually looking for? And I think what trained me as an investor, of course, having the experience of Blackstone KKR, but what everyone else can do is read a book that I read that actually trained me to think like Warren Buffett. And it's this book that I got at the library called The Warren Buffett Way. And I love this book because it summarizes all of Warren Buffett's annual letters at Berkshire Hathaway, and it breaks it down into how to think and see investment opportunities like Warren Buffett. And in the first chapter or so, it outlines his key criteria of what makes a really good business. And I reference this every single year. I reread it all the time. Check it out on Amazon. I might have a link down below, but it is a great book to read to build that criteria. So what do I look for in a business before I acquire the company? The first thing is a solid management team. I love to see a business that has existing folks in place that are running day-to-day operations. I want to buy myself a business. I don't want to buy myself a job. So having a really strong management team is super essential. Now, the seller might be involved, and that's okay if he or she is leaving. We just want to make sure that there is a second or third level management that we can train and level up to still run day-to-day operations. Because like I said, I'm buying a business, I'm not buying a job. Number 2, long-term operating history. Look, I'm not buying a business that some cat started on his iPad in 2022. Why? Because it's like a 3 to 4 year operating history that simply isn't enough data points to prove if this business is resilient during bad time. I personally love to see 20 to 30 year operating histories. I want to see how this business did during the dot-com bubble, during the 08 financial crisis, during COVID, things like that, to see if this business is truly resilient. And the longer the operating history, the more data points to show that when things go bad, does this business also perform poorly, or is it more resilient and a stronger, durable business to acquire? Number 3, growth opportunities. Look, these businesses are slow growing, they're owned by folks that were chilling, relaxing, and quite frankly, low-hanging fruit. And I love to find a business that has very simple low-hanging fruit that I can use to grow the business. Either it's a fragmented market to where we can do roll-ups and add-on acquisitions, or they have absolutely zero online presence, meaning that we can simply build this business a website. Like, that's super easy. Or there's just other things like installing the right leadership and talent and sales team to ensure that we can go out and hunt for new business. Because most of these small businesses have just been reactive, relying on inbound phone calls, and haven't really cared about aggressively growing the business. And if this is a company to where I can invest in marketing and social media and the right talent and M&A just to grow the business 100% in year one, sign me up. And then the last one is consistent profitability. I'm all about cash flow. Why? Because cash is king in private equity. And I want to make sure that I am buying a business that is not burning cash. So with that long-term operating history that I want to see, I also want to see that the business, not only did they remain stable revenue-wise, but they were also able to generate healthy cash flow margins throughout that operating history. And if a business is able to do healthy 15, 20, 30% plus cash flow margins through good times and bad, sign me up, I'll buy that right now. And if you find one, DM me and I will literally pay you $1,000 for sourcing me that deal. So hunt down cash and you can get cash. That sounds like an ad. But in all seriousness, this is just a small subset of the full comprehensive checklist that we use on all our deals at Dreamline. And if you want access to that full checklist, it's a page in our ebook that has like 10 to 15 pages of how to buy a business, start to finish, on one, sourcing, funding, diligence, value creation, all kinds of things. Literally everything that I have in my head as a PE investor, I put onto that ebook for you guys, and it is completely for free. And if you want access to that, DM me LIST, L-I-S-T, on Instagram, and I send you guys a free copy. And I think you also get access to Discord, where I answer questions like this and then this video literally every single day. So check that out, LIST on Instagram, and I send you guys a free copy. All right, number 6, if the business is profitable and growing, why would the owner sell? That is one of the most like mind-boggling questions. Like, why would someone give up something that is so dang profitable? And I think there's 2 core reasons. Number 1, the owner is tired and retiring. All right. These folks are in like their 60s, 70s, 80s. They don't have the time, the patience, and the energy, and the endurance, and the interest in taking this business to the next level. And then they also don't have anyone within the organization to pass their businesses down to. So they can either run this thing to the ground and then dismantle the business when they pass away, or they can pass it to someone that wants to buy the company, which leads to the next most important point, liquidity, right? When you're selling a business, the owner is getting a fat check, a couple $100,000s, potentially millions, and for some really big companies, billions of dollars on one day. You get to summarize your entire life's work for this business into one check, and that is incredibly compelling to a business owner that dedicated their life to build this thing. So they built it, they get to find a young, savvy, cute, business investor like Kenny Finance, and Kenny Finance writes them a check for millions of dollars, and they get to cash out and go to Cabo. That's pretty compelling, right? But the headline stat, and I'll summarize this in like 5 to 10 seconds, there are 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day. Most of them own the businesses in America, and most of them also don't have anyone to pass their businesses down to. So that leaves a very compelling opportunity for someone to go up to them and say, hey, I will give you millions of dollars in cash today to let me own your business. And then they say yes, and then you own a business. It's plain and simple. All right, moving on. Number 7, how do you value a business? Good question. So this leads into like the more technical side of private equity, and that's like financial analysis and valuation. Like, look, it's not rocket science, it's simple mathematics, but it can be kind of complex when you're seeing things like P&Ls, balance sheets, cash flow statements, you're looking at accounts receivables, payables, looking at net working capital, CapEx, all kinds of things. And it's like, there's a bunch of magical formulas. But I think the easiest approach towards finding the true value of a business is to, and this is the easy one, and there's a bunch of other ones, but I think the easiest is looking at comps. And these are checking out businesses that have sold recently in a similar geography, in a similar industry, within a similar size as the business that you're looking at. And there are often comp tables that showcases for these kind of businesses, what were the average multiple that they were sold at. And on average, for small businesses that we're looking at, they usually trade between like 3 to 5 times a cash flow multiple. Now, what does that cash flow multiple mean? That means that if a business is doing $500,000 of cash flow every single year, we are willing to pay 3 to 5 times that cash flow to to purchase that company. So in that example, if the business is doing $500,000 of cash flow, we are willing to pay like 5 times multiple for that business, meaning that the purchase price is $2.5 million to own that company. Okay, and then how do I use other people's money to buy a business? This is such a good question, and I think the OPM, or other people's money concept, has like a 3-pronged approach. Number 1, it is using bank or SBA funding. 2 is seller financing, and then 3, using co-investors. And I'll summarize all 3 of these. On the SBA funding, this is kind of cool. Did you know that some banks will give you like a mortgage equivalent to go buy a business? So literally just like how you go buy a house, right? A house that sells for $1 million, you can get a mortgage for like $800,000 and put 20% down. Well, you can also do that to buy a business. So you can buy a cash flowing company for $1 million and only have to put up $200,000 to own that company. Now, you have to use some of the cash flow to pay down the debt as well as the interest, but you can use a product that is literally just like a mortgage to buy a cash flowing business. That's super cool. So the first piece is SBA funding. Now, the second piece is seller financing. This is like a loan that the seller gives you to buy their company. Now, I know it kind of is like counterintuitive, but it helps for companies that aren't either SBA eligible or the seller just wants to get rid of it ASAP and just collect some cash flow. So once you own that business, you have to give the seller a piece of that cash flow, which is paying down the principal of that seller note, as well as some interest. Now, that percent of seller financing, it depends. Some do like 10, 20% seller financing. Some do 100% seller financing. It just depends on your negotiations on what that seller is willing to offer in terms of a seller note. And then 3, raising equity. Let's just say, for example, for that $2.5 million business that we're acquiring, we did $1.5 million of SBA funding. We did $500,000 of a seller note. Now, that remaining $500,000, that would either have to come out of your cash, or you can go to investors, which are family offices, high net worth individuals, people like me, and say, hey, I have a great cash flowing deal that I am looking to purchase for $2.5 million, and I am looking to raise $500,000 of equity. Do you want to have a piece of this deal? And the next thing you know it, you have purchased a whole company that is cash flowing with employees and a product or service with 0 money down. You used SBA, seller financing, and you raised some third-party capital from co-investors. There you go. Now you own a business. That's other people's money. And now moving on to the third segment, which is best businesses to buy. And this question number 9 is actually on a geography. And then this question is this only possible in America? No. Not at all. Like, pay attention. I want you to pay really, really, really close attention to this. There are cash flowing businesses everywhere. Whether you are in Japan, South Korea, Nicaragua, Indonesia, the Philippines, India, China, Colombia, Brazil, or Canada, or America, there are cash flowing businesses with retiring owners everywhere. Okay? And listen, the exact same thesis and dynamic applies to all these countries. Baby boomers own these businesses, they are tired, and they don't have anyone to pass this business down to, and they are looking for liquidity. So if you're an investor that has skill, resources, and cash to buy a business, get after it, regardless of where you are. And if you made it to this part of the video, shout out and props to you all. Round of applause to the shred doors that have made it to this part. Why? Because you have invested the time into yourself to learn private equity, to learn how to buy a business, and you're taking your life and your future as an investor and business owner like quite seriously. And given this country question, I would love to know where everybody is from. I would love to see where all the viewers are at. So put your country down in the comments down below and let me know where you are watching this from. I'm going to take a bet. I think we have a few folks from America, a few folks from the UK, some from Australia. Shout out to my Australians, and then maybe some in Korea. All right, so let me know down below. And then moving on to my hot pick. What is the number 1 sector to invest in? Y'all need to be paying me for this. JK, this is Smart Money Moves where all this stuff is free. Now, when it comes to like my number 1 sector of where I think the best opportunities are, I'm really giving some secrets away. But at Dreamline, we have a quarterly review of all of our top themes to see what themes are happening, what are the megatrends, what are the regulatory environments, and what are the universe of small business acquisitions within that space, and how are these different businesses performing through different economic cycles and tariffs and all kinds of things. So we reevaluate this theme question literally all the time. And my honest opinion right now is that everyone's favorite roll-up and acquisition of yesterday was HVAC, actually. And I think that thesis has died out a little bit because there's too many dollars chasing the very few HVAC businesses. So multiples have increased significantly. So I'm not the hottest on HVAC. Right now, currently, so yesterday was HVAC. Today, a lot of folks are spending a lot of time on plumbing and electricians, given the labor shortages. That is cool, but it's hard to differentiate sort of key business models and build a really sizable national brand against some of the larger franchises and other strategics. But my number one pick right now is in an industry called biohazard cleanup, actually. And have you guys ever seen that Godfather movie where the scene was, leave the gun, take the cannoli, right? That was like a really funny scene in Godfather, but it was actually a crime scene. And if you didn't know, after that immediate scene, there is a business model that is extremely necessary and mandatory. And that's the biohazard cleanup or crime scene cleanup space. Those are where folks that have hazmat suits on goes to a crime scene and literally cleans it up to make it look as if nothing ever happened. Isn't that cool? But this is something that police departments use and homeowners and business owners all use to clean up either biohazards or crime scenes to make sure that their environment and the space isn't disrupted, right? Like no one wants to go shop if they know that a crime scene was there yesterday. So this industry is not only recession resilient, it is not only essential, it is also quite fragmented, meaning that there are a bunch of other businesses out there that we can purchase and do a roll up in. So that's really cool. So that's like my number one theme in that space. And if you all know any biohazard cleanup businesses out there, let me know and I'll buy them and I'll pay you guys a referral fee. So that's our number one pick for this quarter, biohazard cleanup. But look, it changes every other quarter, every other year, primarily because economies change, business models change, labor shortages change, and there might be a next best theme next quarter or the quarter after that. But for right now, I love biohazard cleanup. But what's super cool is I actually found a cash flowing biohazard cleanup business here in California, and I was able to spend 24 hours with them. I had to wear a hazmat suit. I was able to go check out their facilities. I spent the whole day with the owner doing diligence, asking questions, financial analysis, all kinds of things. And if you're interested in seeing my findings and learning about this industry and that business, check out this next video where I spent 24 hours with the coolest biohazard cleanup business in California. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, do us a huge favor and smash that like button. It costs you absolutely nothing, but means everything to us. And this is me answering the 10 most asked questions on private equity and buying a business. So get after it, doggies, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Peace.